My name is Schmeling, and this is my mission for grieving families. Why did Renee have to die? Why not me, Father Most High? How she loved the mountains and the sky. How to all she gave love from her heart. Now with these she can fly. When I lost my 31-year-old loving and giving daughter quite suddenly to cancer, I fell into a deep pit of despair and anguish. And I kept crying out to God, but I felt like God answered me. Every time I prayed, I looked out and I saw His glorious wildlife on our lake. The great white cranes, the squawking parrots, the majestic white pelicans. And at night, I heard the deep lamentation of the great blue heron, and I saw it sitting on my pole. And a friend took me after 2 months to her church, and the minister prayed for me. Let Jean be reassured that her daughter is in heaven. And he didn't know that was my most fervent prayer, because Renee had repeatedly told me that she was an atheist ever since college. And then a series of dreams started, very vivid with specific messages. The first one, I'm in a courtroom with Renee, full of thousands of people. And the judge motioned for her to go into another room, and I tried to follow her, but I couldn't go with her. And the next dream, she was in the back of this open long truck. And so I got into the passenger seat, and then this terrifying, evil man got into the driver's seat, and I yelled, "Jump, Renee," which I did, and she didn't. But then I saw that she was attached, that he didn't take her away. And then the next dream, I was in her body the way we saw it in ICU. And I felt this intense struggle, the fight for life. And I looked out, and I saw Renee standing next to me in her healthy, thin body. And she said serenely, as always, "I still have cancer." In the next dream, it was a chase dream. And I was running through malls and cemeteries, but I couldn't catch up. I had to let her go. And in the next dream, it was in our apartment in Houston. And I waved goodbye to her, and then it was getting later and later, and I kept looking at the time. And then the ends of my hair started feeling strange. And I looked in the mirror, and they had turned silver. And when I told my Christian loving guides, they said that's a sign in the Bible of redemption, that you've been saved. And in the last dream, I'm dying in a hospital bed. Renee is standing next to me. And I know she will always be with me and her family. And she'll be waiting for us when we pass into heaven. And I thank God for all these reassuring dream messages. But I knew that Renee had found God in nature by the way she lived, serving the needy legally. Then there was a dry period of about 2 months of continued messages from Renee assuring me that I had raised her well, prepared her for life. And then then my son, on his birthday, he had a dream that Renee was in heaven with his dog that had died. And then on my father's birthday, right on his birthday, I had a dream that a younger and older man were bringing my mother to me. I knew the younger man was my younger brother who had died in a car accident at the age of 21. But my father, I had prayed and repeatedly for his soul. And then there was a 2-year dry spell where I had continuing messages from Renee on specific days, my birthday, Mother's Day, her birthday. And I started writing up all these dreams, and I know the Holy Spirit was working through me, because I had never written poetry. But it was my 10-year journal, my my mission. 4 years later, at Suzanne's wedding, my daughter Suzanne, finally at the age of 35, to the right man for which I had prayed intensely, she had a dream right before with Renee, and asking Renee if it was all right if she wore her wedding dress. And Renee said serenely, yes, I never wore it. And I remember Renee's wedding was the most beautiful, meaningful wedding I have ever attended. In the courtroom with all her loving friends and people she had helped in the court and anywhere. And gradually I refound my joy, I refound God and Jesus. And especially with my 5 grandchildren. And when I look into their eyes, I see Renee's zest for life. After 7 years, on my birthday, I had the last dream. Renee and I were pulling clothes out of a closet. And I pulled out this little girl's dress and I said, whose is this? And Renee answered, my daughter's. Oh, that dream really bothered me. What was the message? Because I had this deep buried question of possible guilt for her insecurity, for the cause of her atheism, and perhaps her cancer through negative emotions. But I had my answer. The next day I heard her song, which we always heard when the family was together. Don't walk away, Renee. The second line, it's not your fault. And that same day, a student brought me a poem he had written, and it was like Renee was speaking to me. How to forget your smile? I remember all the wonderful times we shared. We don't know how long we're going to live. There's illness in life. But how Renee lived the spirit of Christmas, how Renee loved Christmas, how Renee loved Christmas and its treasures, always wishing it would go on forever. Angelica was her loving smile, always smiling. Everything was so special, and so were we. Yes, Renee felt needed and dear. Her spirit was giving, joyful, living each motion with compassion. Whoever came her way became her mission. Now she lives with the angels. I'm always Mom, and this is my mission to help the grieving families, grieving parents. My memorial to my